It all started on what should have been a completely ordinary Tuesday morning, the kind of day that doesn't prepare you for the kind of heartbreak that changes everything. My phone buzzed just after 9 a.m., and the words on the screen shattered me instantly. Your son has been taken to the ER. He's not breathing right. The message came from my neighbor, someone I trusted, someone who had been watching my 4-year-old son, Ethan, while I ran a few errands. My hands trembled, my chest tightened, and before I even realized what I was doing, I was already in my car, speeding toward the hospital. The drive felt like a blur, red lights meant nothing, my vision tunneled, and all I could hear was my heart pounding in my ears. I couldn't think, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything except replay those words over and over. He's not breathing right. When I reached the hospital, everything was a storm of movement, nurses rushing, doctors calling codes, the metallic smell of antiseptic hanging in the air. They took me straight to the pediatric emergency room, and I saw him there, my little boy, lying on a hospital bed, hooked up to monitors, his tiny chest rising and falling unevenly. The sight punched the air right out of my lungs. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. One of the nurses tried to calm me down, explaining that he had suffered a severe allergic reaction, possibly to something he had eaten earlier in the morning. My mind spun in circles. I had packed his breakfast myself, oatmeal and sliced bananas. Nothing new, nothing dangerous. I fumbled for my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type, but instinctively, I knew who I needed to tell first, my mom. Despite our complicated relationship, despite the distance that had grown between us over the years, she was still my mother, and deep down, I believed she would want to know that her grandson, her only grandson, was in the hospital fighting to breathe. I texted her quickly, trying to hold back tears. Mom, it's me. Ethan's in the ER. He's not okay. Please pray for him. I watched the 3 little dots appear on the screen, waiting, desperate for a comforting reply, something, anything that would remind me I wasn't alone in this. Her reply came only a few seconds later, but what I read left me completely stunned. Well, maybe now you'll learn what happens when you don't listen to your mother. I told you kids these things happen when you're careless. For a moment, I thought I must have read it wrong. My vision blurred. My heart sank. I blinked. Read it again, but the words didn't change. She wasn't asking if Ethan was okay. She wasn't saying she'd come to the hospital or offering comfort. She was blaming me, in the middle of my worst nightmare, for something I couldn't have predicted. I just sat there, staring at her message, feeling a rage and grief so tangled together that I didn't know what to do with it. The woman who had raised me, the one who had always said, family first, had chosen that moment, when my little boy was struggling for air, to lecture me. I typed back, my fingers trembling so violently that I kept hitting the wrong keys. Mom, this isn't the time. He's really sick. Please, I just need support right now. She didn't respond right away. I waited, my mind screaming for her to say something motherly, something human. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally, another message buzzed through. Maybe this is God's way of showing you that you've made mistakes in life. You should have married a better man. You should have listened when I told you that choices have consequences. I nearly dropped the phone. My mouth went dry. My mom wasn't just being cruel, she was heartless. Ethan was fighting for his life, and she was using this moment to shame me for marrying my husband, Aaron, a man she had never approved of. She had always resented him, his quiet nature, his background, his career that didn't pay as much as she thought it should. To her, everything was about image, about control, about winning, but I had never imagined she could sink this low. The next few hours felt like years. The doctors moved fast, epinephrine, oxygen. For drips, I barely understood the medical terms, only the desperate tone in their voices. They told me that if I had arrived even 10 minutes later, it could have been fatal. That sentence kept echoing in my head. 10 minutes later, I couldn't stop crying. I kept blaming myself for not being there, but even in that guilt, there was a deeper wound festering. My mother's words. They kept looping through my mind, slicing through whatever strength I had left. Aaron arrived about an hour later, pale and breathless, his shirt half-buttoned from the rush. He wrapped his arms around me without saying a word. I buried my face in his chest, shaking uncontrollably. He's going to be okay, he whispered, though his own voice trembled. When the doctor finally came out and said Ethan was stabilizing, that he was responding to treatment, I nearly collapsed from relief. I just stood there, crying and laughing at the same time. My little boy was going to be okay, but in that moment of relief, another ache tugged at me. My mother still hadn't called, still hadn't asked how he was doing. That night, after Ethan was moved to a regular room and Aaron stayed by his bedside, I stepped out to the hallway to call my mom. I needed to hear her voice, needed to understand how she could say what she said. When she picked up, her tone was cold, detached, like she was expecting me to apologize for disturbing her. Mom, I began softly, Ethan's stable now. It was a severe allergic reaction. They think it might have been cross-contamination from something he ate. He's going to be okay. There was a long silence. Then she sighed. Good. Maybe next time you'll learn to be more careful. I hope this taught you something. I froze. Taught me something? I asked, my voice cracking. Mom, he could have died. Your grandson could have died. And you're talking like this is some kind of punishment. Her tone sharpened. You always play the victim. You always want sympathy. I told you when you chose that man, that house, that lifestyle, it would end in disaster. And now look, that's when something inside me broke. All the years of walking on eggshells around her, all the times I swallowed my pain just to keep the peace, they all came crashing out. Mom, you're unbelievable. You don't care about Ethan. You don't care about me. All you care about is being right, even when a child's life is at stake. She snapped back. Don't you dare talk to me like that. I raised you alone after your father left. I sacrificed everything for you. And this is how you repay me, by blaming me? I didn't respond. My voice was gone. I just ended the call. I stood in that hallway, shaking, as tears streamed down my face. The woman who gave me life had just shown me she had no heart. Over the next few days, Ethan recovered beautifully. The doctors identified the trigger, a hidden peanut trace in a granola bar the babysitter had given him. It wasn't anyone's fault, just a tragic accident. But while I was surrounded by kindness from nurses, friends, and even strangers who sent prayers, there was only silence from my mother. Not a single visit, not a single text asking how he was doing. I kept staring at my phone, hoping she'd come around, but she never did. When Ethan was discharged, we took him home, still fragile but smiling. He drew a picture of himself with a big bandage and showed it to me proudly. Look, Mommy, I'm brave. I smiled through tears. Later that night, I sat alone in the living room, thinking about everything that had happened. I opened my messages again, scrolling through my mom's cruel replies, and something inside me just hardened. I realized I couldn't keep trying to fix a relationship that only caused me pain. I had spent years believing her approval was something I had to earn, but now I saw the truth. No amount of effort, no amount of love, would ever be enough for her. Days turned into weeks, and the silence continued. Then one afternoon, out of nowhere, she called. Her voice was oddly cheerful. I've been thinking, she said. Maybe it's time you apologize for how you spoke to me. Families shouldn't fight like this. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Apologize? I repeated quietly. Mom, I begged you for help when my son was in the ER. You told me it was my fault. You said maybe it was God's punishment, and now you want me to apologize? She paused, clearly irritated. You always twist things. I was just being honest. The world doesn't owe you comfort every time something bad happens. That was the moment I knew, really knew, that I had to cut ties. Mom, I said calmly, I love you, but I can't let you keep hurting me like this. Ethan deserves a grandmother who loves him without conditions. I deserve peace, and I can't find it with you. She scoffed, muttered something about me being ungrateful, and hung up. I sat there for a long time afterward, staring at the blank screen, feeling a strange mix of grief and freedom. In the weeks that followed, something unexpected happened. I began to heal. I started to understand that love shouldn't feel like constant judgment. I had spent my whole life chasing a version of my mother that didn't exist, the caring, nurturing one I thought she could be. But sometimes, letting go is the only way to stop the bleeding. Aaron noticed the change in me, too. You're lighter, he said one evening. You smile more. I realized he was right. For the first time in years, I wasn't living in fear of disappointing someone. Months later, my mom sent a birthday card for Ethan. It was short and impersonal. Happy birthday. From Grandma. No apology. No worms. Just her handwriting, neat and cold. I threw it in a drawer and never replied. Because I finally understood, some people mistake control for love. And until you walk away, you don't realize how much it's suffocating you. Now, when I look at my son, laughing, running, healthy, I remember that day in the ER, the day I thought I would lose him. And I also remember the moment I realized I had already lost my mother long before that. Not because she died, but because her heart had turned into something unrecognizable. I learned that sometimes family isn't the one you're born into, it's the one you build through love, kindness, and compassion. And if you're reading this and you've ever had someone, even a parent, use your pain as a weapon against you, please know this: you don't owe them your forgiveness just because they're family. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself the right to walk away. I used to think I needed my mom to feel whole, but the truth is, I just needed to stop bleeding for her love and start healing for myself and for my son. That day in the ER broke me, but it also set me free. Would you like me to expand this story even further, ax a madam, to around 3,500 words, by adding flashback scenes of her childhood and deeper emotional reflections about her mother's past behavior and how it shaped her? That would make it even more cinematic and impactful for your Reddit Stories audience.